There's nothing to worry about.
She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
It's time for Ben's Horror Bullshit.
To kick off this spooky season, I have invited you
Worst
once
month
again.
of the year.
I've invited you once again to go into the quiet streets of a London
bowels.
suburb. I don't know. It's set in America. Is it set in America? I can't remember.
I imagined
movie.
America when I read it, so
I think it's set in America in the movie.
yeah.
I think Clive Barker lives in LA now. I don't know. But he's British. He's of British origin. And that makes this a British tale. We are reading The Hellbound Heart, which, if you do not know, is the inspiration for Hellraiser. It is the first appearance of the Cenobites.
Yeah. Those delicious, delicious Cinnabon bites.
We have such sights to show you.
New KFC Cinnabon dessert biscuits, free with a 10-piece meal.
They're not unlike the Cinnabon bites.
You run into them in a dirty bathroom at the airport.
I don't know. You tell me. You're not like, is Hellraiser common knowledge outside of hell circles, horror circles?
I think so. I knew about them. I didn't know what they did. I knew they had something to do with pain and pleasure, and he had all those fucking pins in his face, and there was a puzzle box involved somehow. I had no knowledge of anything else, but I knew what a Cinnabon was.
Yes. So, The Hellbound Heart is a novella marketed to me in a bookstore as a novel with giant font. I loved that. The font in the copy of the book I bought, I was expecting to get like a Clive Barker anthology or something because I knew it was a novella. It's like 90 pages of normal text, but they somehow stretched this into like, it looks like an adult Goosebumps book. The font.
It felt like an adult Goosebumps book as I was
It kind of,
reading.
yeah, it kind of is. So I wanted to, this month, I wanted to focus on body horror because I don't really get body horror. It's not my thing. And so I thought like, oh, this will be a good opportunity to kind of like go into a realm of horror I don't normally check out. I have seen Hellraiser. I'd never read the book. And I thought based on, Hellraiser, this would be like really gory, like really like splatterpunk, uncomfortable. It's not. That was surprising. But
Yeah.
I also wanted to focus on some more modern stuff this month. We're going to focus on books written this century for a change. I mean, I guess it hasn't been written this particular century, but nearer than, say, your Hill Houses and your Draculas.
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah. Are you blown away by that?
Yeah, I kind of am. We finished the Marked trilogy this year, Ben. That feels like
aware.
something I read years ago.
That's because you're aging in parent time.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So, I don't know. I don't really know where to start because I think we're going to watch the movie. We have to watch the movie.
Yes.
Because
The first one. I hear there's like a million sequels, and I assume that
Well,
they get gradually worse and away from the source material, is my guess. I don't know that.
so my understanding, this is a little bit of the about the author section, is that Clive Barker wanted to get into filmmaking. I think maybe, I could be wrong about this. I think maybe his dad was a filmmaker and he wrote The Hellbound Heart, I believe, with the intention of like demoing it as a story to eventually be adapted into a film. So it's kind of like the demo tape for Hellraiser. Because of that, I don't think you can really separate Hellraiser from the Hellbound Heart. And it's a rare case of Clive Barker was deeply involved in the Hellraiser movie. The first two, I believe. And then after that, he kind of got out of it. He also hates the name Pinhead. He did not call him Pinhead.
Is that because that's kind of a stupid name for an otherworldly being?
He absolutely hates the name Pinhead. He calls him, I think he just calls him the Hell Priest if he calls him anything. So there's a lot of interesting choices because I think we all know what Pinhead looks like, more or less. He's a man.
A head full of pins.
He's a man with like a grid carved into his head with a pin sticking out at each square. He's got a completely white face, almost all black eyes, and he wears, a tight leather, almost BDSM outfit.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing with the Cenobites. They're supposed to be kind of kinky.
Delicious.
Obviously.
You cover them a little bit of that cream cheese frosting, and oh man.
You will know our finest gift. Oh, yes.
Freshly baked, deliciously frosted, ooey gooey cinnamon goodness delivered. Buns on board, baby.
They are described as having a vanilla and rotting meat smell. So
yeah,
not unlike a Cinnabon, like an airport Cinnabon.
Hey, that's just because it's the delicious Cinnabon just next to the bathroom, and they really should get that checked. They should move that a few stalls down, but I'm assuming that would cost a little extra money that Cinnabon doesn't want to pay for. So
it's true. I noticed right away, and I'll describe the plot of Hellbound Heart, I guess, and then I think I'll give you some hints where the movie will differ.
Okay.
And then we'll watch the movie and we'll finally do the compare and contrast. I think that's how we'll structure this.
Am I gonna have to be a snob and be like, the book was so much better?
I actually don't think it is.
Oh my god.
I actually think the movie is
The Haunting
better.
of Hill House all over again, where the Netflix series is vastly superior, and I will never let that go.
Coming from the movie to the novella is kind of weird because, like you said, there are a million Hellraiser movies and they get increasingly weird. And there's two canons at this point of Hellraiser stuff where there's the movies and then there's the comics. And the comics have just gone way off the deep end. I checked in before we started recording this episode. I just wanted to see where's the story at in the comics, and it is Pinhead has been transformed back into a human, and Kirsty is now a Cenobite, and she's in charge of hell, and she.
Is this because they have to make the comic go on forever, like most comics? So they're just what do we do next to keep this soap opera train going?
I guess.
We print in 3 hours. Come on, let's go.
They have all this lore. They gave Pinhead a whole background of he was in World War One and he got all this PTSD and I'm what the fuck is going on?
That's what I thought of. That is exactly what I thought of when I was reading this book. I was like, yeah, that guy was definitely in World War One.
I want to know what Pinhead's story was. Yeah,
yeah, that was the important part here.
So, this is a major difference right off the bat. Pinhead, not even really a thing in this. There is a Cenobite described that looks like him, but he's not in charge. He or she barely speak. Only one of the Cenobites is described as having any discernible gender.
Yeah.
And so it's not that masculine Pinhead, we have such sights to show you.
Is Pinhead masculine?
He's pretty deep voice in the movie.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
The Hellbound Heart starts with a man named Frank who has acquired a box.
What's inside the box?
Lamarckian configuration.
Is that how you
the
say
Lamarckian
that?
figuration.
I thought it was Le Marche.
Le Marche?
Yeah.
I don't know, because you know what? They don't call it that in the movie, so I've never heard it said.
Well, of course they don't call it that in the movie. It's too French.
It's called the Lament configuration in the movie.
Oh, okay.
It was designed by a madman. That old trope. He was a crazy inventor, and Frank,
the best kind of inventor.
A little backstory about Frank. He's a man obsessed with like earthly pleasures. He has done it all. Brave New World ain't got shit on him. He's done all the orgies. He's done all the sexy stuff. He's done weird butt stuff. He's been there, done that.
that wasn't said in the book, but it
was strongly implied. And if he hasn't, he will have done by about page 10. So he cannot get satisfaction from life anymore. He is so bored, it is killing him. He's done every drug. He's run every scheme. He's risked his life. He's tried adrenaline junkie. He's just reached the end of everything that can be done with humanity.
Fight a bear, you pussy.
One night, he's poring over the journals of Gilles de Rais and other famous historical
Mike Tyson
sadists. If you don't know who Gilles de Rais is, he was a famous sadist. Hung out with Joan of Arc, actually.
Huh.
Weird that they were friends. He was a French noble. I mean, I guess he was
weird.
Good at fighting, but no, he apparently kidnapped many a boy, and they did not ever leave his castle. So, yeah, he got convicted of all kinds of weird perversions. Thought he was a witch, a Satanist, a werewolf. Like he's an interesting one to look up. So
yeah,
you know what
the worst thing out of all those things is though?
The child predator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually the worst one.
Well, back in the day, if you murdered a child, I guess they just thought you were a werewolf because no human person would do that. And I don't know, not a lot has changed, I guess, except we like werewolves now and we don't like child predators. So, though Jacob in Twilight, it's all starting to come together now.
Oh yeah, he was a child predator.
Yeah, he was
a child predator. In fact, he was a baby predator. That's
the worst kind. Yeah.
That's way worse.
Yeah, he just keeps sinking lower. But we're not here to talk about Stephanie Myers and the character assassination rifle. We're here to talk about Frank and his misadventures. So Frank found this box. And apparently, now the weird thing is with Frank, right? Gilles de Rais. We all know where this is going, right? If you know who that is. So what did Frank think he was getting out of this box? That's what I wondered. The box is like, he's spending a lot of time with it. He's prepared a ritual chamber. He's got a bowl full of severed pigeon heads. He's got
a jug, Ben. He's got a jug.
A jug of his own urine. Like every person who has a ritual chamber does. So he's prepared all the weird sacrifices. And he's solving this puzzle box. And he gets really into it. He's like, he's going, it's like me with one of those 3 puzzles at Barnes & Noble. And he just can't figure it out. And he's trying to make it was a ball when we started, but I don't remember how this piece fit in. If maybe I should just hold it together and I could just shove it in, and a bell starts tolling, this church bell, and he's like, is it ever going to stop? It's only supposed to go up to 12, but it is rung like 36 times now, and the lights are flashing on and off, and when the lightning flashes and he sees a bunch of hell creatures flying by his window. The dimensions are shifting. The room he's peeling back layers of time and space. And then before he knows it, they're here. The Cenobites stand before him. The theologians of the Order of the Gash.
Yeah, that's the type of order I would trust.
Yeah, and again, that's the weird thing, because, so, like, my impression of Hellraiser from the movie, I mean, you know Frank regrets what he winds up getting. You know he winds up not liking how things turned out. But for some reason, he thought this was going to be something other than what it was.
Look, when you're bringing a jug of urine to the party, you gotta know on some level what it's about, okay?
So they show up, and they look like BDSM leather daddies who took it way too far. Their flesh is, you know, they're like, have you ever seen people who did, I think Clive Barker actually took inspiration from BDSM clubs, people who do like scarification and strange piercings and, you know, just real crazy body mod stuff. And they've taken it to the next level. They have open wounds. He's not as descriptive, though, as I thought he would be.
No, he really wasn't. It was like a PG-13 version of the body horror.
Yeah. I really thought this was going to be like a kind of hard to read experience.
Have you read this before?
No, I've only seen the movie.
Oh my god. I didn't realize this was a new thing for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said that at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, but we all know I don't listen to you when you monologue, Ben. I tune it out.
So, yes, it was new to me.
Oh my god.
So I thought this was going to be like super grody, and I didn't know. Well, that or like maybe at one time it was. And in just the short time since the Hellbound Heart has been written, horror has gotten like way worse. Because I have read stuff this year that puts this to shame, and it was by like, I don't want to say randos, but I mean, it was
by like a 4-year-old that just had access to a typewriter for some reason. It's really weird.
No, but like I've actually been reading. Maybe we'll talk about that this month. A couple of charity books came out, trans horror anthologies. All the authors are trans, and they're using body horror as a way to talk about dysphoria or the mistreatment they suffer from society, and those stories got really uncomfortable. Like some of them like stuck with me. And Hellraiser was nothing compared to that. And I was surprised because like those authors really brought it. I will mention some of them in a later episode. But yeah, so Pinhead is supposed to be kind of shocking. And so the first thing that happens to Frank is the Cenobites do some sort of hell magic. The word hell is never used, by the way.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that they came from hell. I thought that they're just extra dimensional.
They are.
Which
Have you
I
ever
prefer.
read Berserk? Have you ever read Berserk, the manga?
No. Why would I do that, Ben?
There is direct Hellraiser reference all through Berserk. He the one bad guy gets like a magical puzzle thing, and he's trying to become like a demon. And when the demons all show up, they look exactly like Cenobites. It's
weird.
But yeah, so the first thing they do is they dial up Frank's senses.
Yeah.
And he can hear things, and it's too loud. It's total sensory overload. He can see the individual eyes on a fly across the room. He can taste and smell everything, and it's horrible.
The flatulence in his bowels was thunder. My note says, just another all-you-can-eat Wednesday night at the Chinese buffet, then.
Are you doing finger guns?
You know I am.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, everything is sensory overload, and then he's like, I'll close my eyes to block it out, and then he just starts remembering stuff. And somewhere in there, he starts touching himself and just relieves himself right on the floor.
Yeah, you knew it was going to get weird.
It got very weird, yes.
It's Hellraiser. It's going to get weird.
There was a webcomic. It was a parody of Daredevil where you know how all of his senses are heightened, and he's in a skin tight suit. He's like swinging in like, "I'll stop you, Kingpin." He's like, "Oh God," and that's the joke every time, Ben. That's what this reminded me of.
Yeah. But Frank pretty quickly is surprised that things aren't going the way he thought they would. This is uncomfortable. I thought I was doing, like, sexy sex. I thought we were going to have, like, lusty nights with buxom young gals.
You could still do that if you could manage to, like, walk, which you can't.
But as it turns out, the Cenobites have a different idea of what pleasure entails. And they whisk Frank away to their dimension where he will be able to endure all the pleasure he can handle and then all the pleasure he can't.
Yeah. That'll teach you a lesson.
It's true. Yeah, the Cenobites take it to the next level.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. And then when he got it, he backed out like a bitch. But he couldn't back out. Can't back out. You're not allowed.
So, smash cut to Frank's brother is moving into the very house where Frank performed the ritual.
Boy, golly, I sure do love you, my wife. Oh, golly gee, everything is great. We got a new job. We're moving into this house, and who knows where Frank is? Her. I have a great marriage.
Frank's brother Rory is the most boring man who ever lived.
He didn't seem that bad, but apparently...
To you.
How is he the
second most boring man who ever lived?
How is he boring, Ben? He threw a party. He drank with his friends. He had friends. That's important. And he did work around the house. How many women would just want a man who has friends and a social life and does shit around the house, Ben? I ask you.
We'll get to that. At least one, I suppose. So we real quickly find out, and this is where, if you watched the movie, this is the biggest change. Kirsty in the movie is Rory's daughter from a previous marriage.
Okay, instead of here,
a friend.
A love square? Kirsty likes Rory, but Rory only likes his wife. And his wife, Julia, she cheated on her husband with Frank and doesn't really care much for Frank and his boringness that's so boring. He's so boring, guys. He probably wears a sweater vest.
He probably does.
He probably does.
The Hellbound Heart is, I think, at its core and in general, a story of unrequited love and basically sexual frustration. I honestly think that's what Clive Barker set out to do with this one. He wanted to tell a horror story kind of about sexual frustration, and he wanted to take the two extremes of sexuality, I guess, in general, of like, he wanted to have the most vanilla people in the world who are so bashful and so weird that they barely even can find a partner, versus Frank and Julia, the kinkiest goddamn freaks you ever met.
Who suck.
And everybody just can't figure it out. That's the problem. So Kirsty in this is a 20-something adult woman who likes Rory. They're adult friends. And Rory is married to Julia. Julia cheated on her husband in her wedding dress before Rory even married her.
Yeah.
As soon as she met Frank, she just had to have him. And Frank was more than willing to accommodate. though I don't think it meant nearly as much to Frank as it did
Did not
to Julia.
mean shit to Frank. He just uses her.
The dynamics are such that Kirsty likes Rory. Kirsty is a fairly, we won't say boring, we'll say traditional, I don't know, indoorsy. What's a nicer
Awesome.
word for boring?
Hot. Oh, sorry.
Hot.
Is that...
Okay.
Am I not supposed to... Oh, I'm sorry.
So Kirsty's just kind of this, I don't know, bookish girl. She's not like crazy prude or anything. She's just not very good at like going for it. She doesn't shoot her shot, you know? And Rory thinks everything's just great with Julia. He thinks Julia is totally into him. And Julia is just completely dissatisfied with her marriage. It was a total mistake. She wishes she'd never done it. She thought it was a good idea at the time,
She's
but
trapped,
she didn't.
Ben. It's
Yeah.
like death or divorce. Fucking pick one, lady. Jesus.
Well, she does. She
She
does.
does. You made the wrong decision.
As they're moving in, Kirsty comes over. They have an awkward exchange. She meets Julia. Julia doesn't like Kirsty at all. She can barely conceal her disdain for Kirsty. And it's not even out of jealousy. Like, I think she knows that Kirsty likes Rory, and she doesn't care. She would love to let Kirsty have Rory. But the whole thing, like, just watching Kirsty just bores her. It's just so boring to her. So boring, she could just kill or be killed. And that's when Julia will go upstairs. And there's this room in the house that just doesn't feel right. And she reasons to herself that it's damp. It's damp in there. There's a leak or something. And she doesn't like it. We'll move into the other bedroom. And, you know, there's a leak. And also I hear the pealing of bells. And sometimes the lights flicker on and off. But it's damp. We'll go with damp.
Yeah.
And we'll never go in there.
Yeah.
But she keeps kind of wanting to go in there. Like, as the days go by and Rory goes to work and sometimes she's at home, she'll just kind of sit in there, stare at a wall, and get the weirdest sensation that, like, the wall's staring back.
Roy cut himself and dripped blood everywhere, and he gets queasy when he drips
He's
blood.
afraid of blood, Nathaniel. He's afraid of blood. There's nothing that tells... There's nothing that signifies you are going to be a victim in a horror novel or movie than being afraid of blood. Rory smashes... He cuts into his thumb like a dipshit. He's doing something stupid.
He's messing with the door or something.
Yeah, he's doing something really dumb, and he cuts his thumb real bad, and he's gonna faint, and he makes Julia take care of it, and she doesn't even want to. It's so sad for Rory. She's just so disgusted by this weak man.
Just leave. You don't even have children with him. You don't even have the excuse of, I'm going to stay together with him for the kids. Just go away. Yeah, you wanna go ahead and have your adventures? You don't have a job, so I guess you can adventure around being homeless. You fucking leech on society. You suck, Julia. I hate you.
You really went after Julia on this one.
Yeah, Julia sucks. Just constantly whining about her marriage. Like, do something about it, lady. And then when she does do something about it, do something better, dumbass.
I was going to say, she definitely does something about it. When they come back from the hospital, the blood is gone. The blood that stained the floor has disappeared. And Rory even comments on what a great housefrau she is. That's his exact words.
What the fuck is that?
That's German for housewife, I think.
Okay, why does he not just say that?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say Hausfrau, but that might be because I'm out in PA Dutch country. So people sprinkle in German. I've been told to red up a room. My wife is cackling because I just said red up a room. So, yeah, the blood's gone. And she's telling Rory, like, I didn't clean it. And he's like, oh, you silly woman. he's also kind of a misogynist. Rory just kind of sucks. Like,
I wouldn't say
low
he
key.
sucks. I think he's just he's mid.
Oh god, painfully mid.
he's
I love
very
I love
mid.
that the kids came up with that. That is like the perfect insult for somebody who's just not even worth insulting. I love mid. That is Gen Z's. They don't get it right every time.
Their one
Mid,
contribution to the world. Good job.
Yeah, their one contribution was mid. Anyway. Oh no, there's another one. I kind of like Riz. I kind of like Riz.
I don't.
I know you don't, but like I didn't at first, but I've warmed up to it.
Yeah, no, that's...
Because, you know,
It's
the
not
thing
good.
is, like, Gen Z, I think Gen Z needs to read the Hellbound Heart. They're old enough now, right?
Probably.
Because Rory has no Riz and is totally mid.
Yeah.
And that's not Cap. No Cap.
No Captain America. Got it.
What else do they say? There's got to be other words Gen Z says.
Who cares? They're Gen Z. I ignore them.
But so
Gen
this
Z is
when-
very mid.
So let's get back to the room shifting and going into the charnel house dimension.
All right.
So Julia is transported into the Cenobite world for a moment, where she sees a figure who is burnt and bloodied and skinned, barely human, can't even understand how it's alive. Every nerve ending is exposed. There is no way it could possibly enjoy even a moment of peace. But somehow one eye opens, and somehow a hole of a mouth appears, and it is able to say, Julia, more blood. And then the whole thing goes back to normal. But she recognized that voice. It was that voice that growled and told her to shut up when she said she loved him.
That sensual voice of a man that said, all right, that was kind of fun, I guess. Later, right?
And then rode his motorcycle off to Bangladesh to sell cocaine.
He said, he told her that the money was on the table, and then he was like, oh wait, sorry, wrong person, and then he left forever.
Yeah, but she recognizes it's Frank, the man she has been pining for since the last time he aggressively took her on a floor.
Yeah, it does. She does make it sound like it wasn't an assault, but like it had flavors of assault, you know?
We're going to go ahead and put a content warning on this one, I guess, because she describes it as would have been rape, but for how much she enjoyed it and her consent. She does mention she consented.
She does consent, yes. And then after that consent, he just goes to town on her.
Yeah, he is quite rough.
Yeah. And that's what she, like, all she needs to do is communicate with Rory. Like, you just need to just, when I'm not even paying attention, slip something into my...
Oh my.
During the act. You know what I mean?
No,
You need to slap me a little bit. Like, not actually hard enough to bruise, actually. Now that I think about it, she was bruised. She did mention that.
When was the Hellbound Heart written, real quick?
I want to say the 90s? 86.
1986. Sex
Okay.
therapists hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't... There was no one to tell them, like, just communicate with your partner what you want.
My former boss was a sex therapist.
Oh my.
There was no one at all who could tell them, you gotta communicate about how rough and kinky you want things to get, bro.
Well, you know, he's got to be comfortable too. But like, I'll be honest with you, I don't think Rory would be comfortable with that. I don't think that's
guess
what Rory
what?
signed up for.
Well, tough shit, Rory. Sorry.
I
Wonder if we
think
could get an annulment.
we never consummated it. I mean, we did, but neither of us enjoyed it.
And also, she consummated with my brother first, so I'm pretty sure in the Bible that's, like, illegal or something, so... You know.
Okay. So Julia, needing literally only 3 words to convince her to get more blood, decides she's going to kill a man.
Oh, you know what, Ben? You know what? I'm going to take you down a little rabbit hole. I think this is the party, right? Julia sees Frank for the first time at that party that Rory and their friends have. So,
yes.
This isn't a super important part of the book. I guarantee this did not come into the movie, but they're at this party. This guy's hitting on Christy? Why am I forgetting her name all of a sudden? Kirsty. All right, Ben. So imagine this, okay? So you're in a bar, right? Suddenly, well, hold up, back up. You're in a bar, and also you're an attractive lady. Very important. And suddenly, in comes the most handsome and dashing sex god you've ever seen in your life, Chad Dingleton. Now, Chad walks over to you, peers over the sunglasses that he's always wearing, and he hits you with this line straight out of the book. The most sultry line ever. You ready? Hey, baby.
I'm ready.
You into cat breeding? Gonna need a cleanup on aisle 3. You catch my meaning, Ben. There's no coming back from that one.
Every once in a while, Chad Dingleton just rolls a nat 20 on his charisma check. And I got to accept a line like that. And I just got to let him aggressively get, or not aggressively, I guess, clumsily get to second base.
But just some guy who's like, he inquired about whether she had any interest in cat breeding. And I was just like, oh, that's the best pickup line ever. So yeah, not really important to the plot at all, but I wanted to throw that in there.
I'm going to say 2 things. First thing, I think he was talking about breeds of cat. Now, I know they said cat breeding. They did use those exact words.
It sounds like he's trying to get cats together to bone.
Yeah. I don't think he was focusing on the mating.
Is there a cat? Well, I don't know, man. It could be like Brock from Pokemon. That guy was a fucking freak, okay? Also,
it is really weird that they just went for that with Brock. It is
really weird.
He wanted to be a Pokemon breeder, and he was a sexual predator.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, just kind of put that together.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, Ben. It's weird and gross, and I wish they hadn't. No, but this guy... are there cat shows the way there are dog shows? Like, I guess he could be... Like, that could be his excuse.
There are... I don't know if there's cat shows, but there are very expensive cats.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's what it is. Like, I get expensive cats, and then I breed them, and then I sell the kittens.
Yeah, people do that. I mean, I've never paid for an animal in my life, so I don't know. I just seem to acquire them. There's a lot of homeless animals, I guess, but...
One of them could be Julia. She doesn't get her shit figured out, Ben. Yeah, that's right. Fuck Julia.
You raise an interesting point that I wasn't entirely expecting, and that is Clive Barker's kind of funny. There are multiple jokes in the book. In fact, I would say pretty much Kirsty's entire perspective is comedic relief.
Until the end, you mean?
Even the end. The way she handles everything is just so like... I guess I'm going to hell now. Well, that was a thing. And she remarks, like, after the whole thing ends, she's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to be okay again.
I wonder if there's a puzzle for where I can find Rory, but I don't think that a broken heart can be solved.
Well, and I think she even thinks, like, I don't know that I'd want to try. Because this was a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got this vibe from Kirsty that she was like, I don't think Clive Barker gave a shit about Kirsty. And we'll talk about that more when we get to the movie. And B, I think he was just having fun with her. I mean, obviously, Julia is the main character. There's 2 perspectives in the book. There's Kirsty and Julia. It's told from both of the women who are longing for a man who doesn't really want them. do with that what you will.
And Frank wants Kirsty, not like romantically, but like he bet he could do some weird stuff with her, even though she hates him.
He wants Kirsty the way like people have a nun fetish, I would say. There's something about corrupting a person that is hot. And I'm not saying that's necessarily like hot to me, but Frank is like, there's just nothing that's too low for Frank.
Yeah, Frank is a real piece of shit.
To go back a little, because this was the night of the party and everything, Julia knows she needs to get more blood for Frank. Somehow that will help Frank. And what I would have started with right off the bat was like, oh, I'll cut myself.
Yeah, I was thinking
blood.
like, I bet she's gonna just immediately jump to killing people, but there are a lot easier ways to get blood. You know what I mean? Like, you could
try
get
animals?
a job at a blood bank and start stealing blood. Like, yeah, you can get animals.
I mean, going back to that homeless animals thing, you could just kill cat after cat after cat.
Yeah, that guy breeds them, apparently.
Yeah, he does. He's got spare cats. I have 2 cats. I wouldn't ritually sacrifice them, just for the listener. I don't endorse that.
Well, you don't need to ritualistically. I mean, you just like, you put him in the room, you lock the door.
If you're doing it to
done.
Resurrect a dead person, it's a ritual.
I'm not gonna like bust out candles and stuff though. I'm just gonna like, step on it or something.
Oh, you're gonna want a candle, but it can be like a Hallmark one. It doesn't have to be like a black candle. This episode was sponsored by Hallmark Fall Collection.
No, it wasn't. But if they want to pay us, I'm happy to talk about their products.
My sister got a bunch of Taylor Swift scented candles. I have no idea what that means. There's a line of candles named
after... She was here in town today.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised my brother and my sister weren't also there in town then. They've gone to like 4 Taylor Swift shows this year. I don't even know where I was. So, yeah. So anyway, Julia doesn't do anything. She does not gradually step up to killing people as you might expect. I think Julia kind of just wanted to kill people. I think this was maybe like something she needed very little push to get going. So she goes out to a pub, I guess, because middle of the day, and she picks up a guy who is somehow even more boring than Rory. He's like a balding man who's married, and he's got...
Is the first guy married?
I think they're all married.
He might be.
I think they're all married.
Why are you going out to a bar and trying to pick up ladies?
Well, and here's my second question. Like, I don't know. I don't go to bars. I've never been a lady in a bar, despite your insistence that we try that.
Yeah, you should.
You would think that, like, how many married dudes are trolling for affairs at a pub near the suburbs at noon on a Tuesday?
I want to say many? I may have missed your question, Ben.
And then the second question, because this is what I was thinking, was like, when these guys go missing, right? Like,
they're going to immediately realize that it's all the same person.
She was the last person they were all seen with. All of their cars were found parked outside that bar.
Yeah, how did they get home? Did she drive them home?
She drives.
Okay.
So they left their car behind. So they know the bar was the last place they left. First thing they're going to do, the cops, is check the cameras or ask the bartender. She's like the only woman in the bar. She very conspicuously flirts. She does it twice.
One of those guys is wearing, like, I want to say either a blue or a teal suit, like something just awful looking and obviously stands out. So the camera, if there's a camera, it's going to be like, oh yeah, there he is. Yep. Oh, and there's that girl. Okay. Let's go ask her some questions.
I guess you could argue that, like, This happens in a relatively short period of
Yeah,
time.
it's like a few days, I think.
Yeah, so I guess the axe
And
was
did
going to drop eventually.
Did the police
but
really want to look into the disappearance of that one guy in the blue suit?
she takes this guy back. She tells him to strip, which he does.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do it right on this floor. You know how uncomfortable that's gonna be, lady? Like, I don't know how hard you think the ground is, but it's pretty goddamn hard.
Well, that's kind of your problem. I'm going to be sitting on your face. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why that got here. But also, these guys are stupid. This is kind of another, like, Clive Barker humor thing, is like all the guys Julia abducts are like, okay, yeah. And, you know,
let's go to town.
Maybe it's a subtle commentary on how easy it would be for a woman to be a serial killer.
That's why they're not allowed to be serial killers, Ben. Gotta have that.
It's literally illegal.
You gotta have that Y chromosome.
And a head injury. And you have to wet the bed and kill animals. It's the McDonald triad. That was invented by Ronald McDonald in the ball pit.
Uh-huh.
I've completely lost my... I don't even remember what was happening.
Yeah, you lost mine too. I'm like, okay, yeah. Ronald McDonald and the ball pit. Do you take a shit in the ball pit? Is that where we're going with this? Or
murder.
Killing people in the ball pit. And,
murder in the ball pit. So Julia has a
Okay.
raincoat conspicuously hung up, and inside the raincoat is a knife. And this is the one thing I do kind of like about Clive Barker. In a lot of stuff, you stab somebody and they just fall over dead. You just hit their off switch. Clive Barker knows that's not how that goes. So she...
No, not at all. This is very realistic. Where you could be stabbed multiple times and still keep going.
And he just does not go down. She's cutting his hand. She's cutting his throat. She's stabbing him.
Well, he manages to fight her off, but then he tries to run away, and it's like, nah, you gotta take her out, dude. You gotta get her on the ground, mount some punches, and just, like, elbows to the face.
Yeah, I mean, he's in shock. He was not ready for this. He was working up the courage to have an affair, and he did, and then he was violently murdered, and he's probably like, oh, why
That's why I didn't have an affair. Yeah, idiot.
Why did I do that? This was actually a morality play the whole time.
Yeah. He needed a little more Jesus in his life.
So, Julia does this, and the guy dies. Blood goes into the floor. Frank sucks it all up. Sucks up all that man juice. And,
also his body.
Yeah. No. He takes everything of nutritional value, which is everything, right? Like everything has
ass.
Some nutritional value, but apparently he leaves like a desiccated corpse
butt.
behind. He eats him butt first. Important to note.
Yeah. That was off screen, but we know that's what happened.
As a doctor, we know that the soul leaves the body through the anus. That's why we place all corpses in the face down ass up position. It's a technical thing. Only doctors know. Are you okay?
I don't know, Ben.
I don't think either of us have been drinking.
No, I've been drinking this delicious Mountain Zevia or whatever the fuck it's called. It's Diet Mountain Dew, but with stevia leaf. But you know,
you're really all about that stevia. You really don't think they're gonna find out that causes cancer?
I also have one that's sweetened with monk fruit. So
Mountain Dew.
I'm hedging my bets.
Mountain Dew sweetened with monk fruit.
No, that's vitamin water with monk fruit.
I just drink seltzer now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's because you're a boring man, Ben. Cenobites would just like you summon them, you'd be like, I want pleasure, and they just like they give you regular soda, Ben.
There is no scenario in which I knowingly summon Cenobites because I know I'm a boring man. I belong on this side of the veil. I'm okay with that. I'm not an astral adventurer.
Emphasis on that ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Anyway, so this brings Frank back a little bit, and he's like, "Don't look at me. I don't want anyone to see me like this." And she does.
You're a hideous monstrosity. Fucking gross.
Yeah, he's like half formed. He's like a rib cage and a spine or something. He's barely just like crawling around like a fish. So she does it a couple more times.
Yep, she just continues her murdering.
She like imagine like a little montage of murdering.
Yeah, and at one point, Frank is making noise upstairs, and Rory's like drunk. He's like, "Why do you hate me so much, Julia?" And he's like, "Wait, the hell is that upstairs?" And Julia is like, "Wait, no, Rory, quick, let's have passionless sex right here on the stair landing." I think is what happens. Like, I swear they're like right outside the door. And she's like, "No, don't go in there. Instead, let's just do it. Let's get it over with."
So a couple of things happen between the montage and this. After the first murder, I think Julia is being really distant with Rory. Partly because
Julia, you piece of shit.
Yeah, partly because she murdered somebody, and partly because Frank's upstairs and she's like tweaking a little. And so Rory asks, in a moment of like revealing how stupid Rory is, he asks Kirsty if she would talk to Julia and find out what's wrong.
Yeah.
They literally hate each other. But like...
Yeah, but like, they're both girls. So...
And that's literally his logic. He's like, they're the only two women I know. Yeah, I'm thinking about turning this into a screenplay. I don't want to add too many actors. So, yeah, we'll just... now, if you make Kirsty the daughter, then I guess there's a reason for them to try to get along, but then you don't have the love stuff making it the Hellbound Heart, so we'll talk about that. But Kirsty gives it the old college try. She's like, I'll try to talk to Julia. And Kirsty waits outside the house for Julia. And she finds Julia goes in with a gentleman. Or no, I think the first time. Does the first time she just knock and talk to Julia?
Yes, but she sees the suit hanging up.
Yeah.
And Julia's acting really evasive. Like, no, you can't. Yeah, you can't.
Julia has
can't
just
come
killed.
in.
Yeah. Julia's just killed a man, and his jacket is hanging on a hook. And she knows, and Kirsty knows that's not Rory's jacket. And she sees that and realizes Julia's having an affair. And she's like, Julia, I just want to talk to you. And Julia's like, I'm going to do something nobody has ever done in a book, as far as Ben knows. I don't like you. I don't want to talk to you. Leave my house. And she shuts the door. And I think I stood up and clapped. I was like, I thought this was going to be this whole awkward thing where like Julia gets or like Julia has to invite her in and they have a little cat and mouse or whatever. And I'm like, and Julia's just like, I actually hate you. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that.
We've only got a few hundred pages or whatever, and we gotta make the most of it. So,
and I honestly thought that was like another bit of Clive Barker humor. Like that kind of made me laugh when Julia was just like, "Get the fuck out of my house!
I hate you. Get out of my house. I have nothing to say to you."
Yeah. And so Kirsty's like goes into Nancy Drew mode, right? She's like, well, I saw the jacket, but the jacket's not enough proof. And if I tell Rory about the jacket, Julia will just weasel out of it somehow. I need more proof. So I'm going to stake out the place. I'm going to case the joint. And she does that. She sees Julia pull up with another victim. And this time Frank's juicy. He's got muscles. He doesn't have skin yet. He's got a lot of muscles.
Yeah. He's fucking jacked.
Yeah, he's kind of jacked. He's kind of got this like unholy strength almost. And he's also being like really sexy with Julia and like also demanding like food and stuff. I mean, he's just kind of working her. Like it's very apparent that like now that Frank is like even a little bit back and like even a little bit not completely dependent on Julia, he's already starting to treat her like shit. And everyone can see where this is going except
garbage.
Julia.
Yeah, it's very obvious what was going to happen to her.
Kirsty sees this guy go up, right? And she hears a scream. And she's like, I'd better go in the house and see what that was. Because it sounded like somebody was just attacked. And she goes in. And she realizes nobody's downstairs. The scream must have come from upstairs, indicating that perhaps she was wrong about the scream's painful origins. But she walks up.
Yeah, maybe it was pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know. They sound so similar, you know. You're like, ah! You're like, yeah, that guy's getting some. Am I right?
But it wasn't. And when she gets up there, I'm trying to remember the exact sequence of events. I'm getting a little twisted up. Does the injured man wind up grabbing onto Kirsty?
No, I think she hides and the injured man spots her and is like, help me! I think he's not injured so much as he is almost a husk.
Yeah.
And then Frank descends upon him.
Sucks his soul right out of his ass.
he lifts him up by his legs and...
Oh, God. I gotta get... How much does it cost to make a Hellraiser comic? Like, I want the license. I gotta do something. I need to make art. So, yeah, this turns into a chase. Eventually, Frank realizes Kirsty's there, and he tries to get her, and there's a lot of like tension, drama, but I'm not here to replace the book for you as much as keep insisting on using the podcast that way. So I'm not going to give you all the tension and drama. I'm just going to tell you... Oh, my mic. I'm just going to tell you...
What else is new?
Yada, yada, yada. And somehow, Kirsty winds up holding the puzzle box. And Frank, who is ready to freaking kill her now. At first, he's kind of trying to molest her.
Yeah, he's getting weird with her.
Yeah. But then, as she fights more successfully, he's like, no, okay, fine, I'll just kill you. But then she grabs the puzzle box, and he stops dead. And he's like... Give me that. She's like, oh, this. He's like, yes. She's like, you want this? He's like, give me the box. She's like, oh, okay. She throws it out the fucking window, shatters the window, throws it into the backyard, and Frank runs to the window screaming, no! And she takes that opportunity to just bolt down out the back door, into the backyard, grabs the puzzle box out of the backyard. Frank can't go outside because he's a zombie. And she just flips him the double deuces and walks out of there.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, Kirsty, you're going to be really dissatisfied with Rory. You're too exciting.
Yeah.
You're all, and frankly, too athletic. I just don't think Rory is for you. You gotta want to have like really boring, just Amish sex. I'm unclear of the layout of where they live, but she runs into town, I guess, whatever town means, and she kind of collapses at a certain point. And now at this point, she's like beaten up, bloodied, clothes are probably torn. She looks like she got attacked. She did get attacked.
Yeah, she has huge gashes on her arms and shit. It's awful.
Oh, I did forget. I just want to throw this in there. before she threw the puzzle box out, I know I told you I wouldn't give you all the attention, but she does rip off a chunk of Frank's face meat with her bare hands because he doesn't have any skin or anything, so she just rips off his face meat.
Yeah.
That was kind of metal.
Take that, asshole.
So somebody finds her and they call an ambulance. She wakes up in the hospital, and the people in the hospital are like, "What happened to you?" And for a minute, like, this is diverged enough from the movie. Like, for a minute, I was like, is she going to try to explain it? Is she going to try to say, like, Julia's a murderer and all that stuff? But she doesn't. She's like, no, if I tell them that, I am going to be institutionalized. So instead...
Yeah, it was in the 80s. They would do that.
Yeah.
They'd just be like, well, you're crazy. Get into the mental health hospital. See you in a decade.
Yep. So instead, I'm just going to tell them that I don't remember much. And, you know, I think I'll be a little bit better after rest. And then apparently the I guess the cops came, took a report or something. Because they said they found her puzzle box. She had, I think, hit Frank with it at one point. And so there was blood on it. And they said they cleaned it up. Would she like it back? And this is another like Clive Barker comedy moment where Kirsty is like, you know what, I would. Yes, I would like that back. And she realizes because of where the blood is like sort of creasing in, it shows her where the joints on the box are. And she starts poking and prodding and solving the configuration.
Yeah, she does it in record time, Frank.
Well, she cheated.
Took you forever.
Frank
That's
didn't
not
think
cheating. That's using the tools at your disposal.
You're not.
Frank
You're not allowed to like spray
show
paint
blood everywhere. Yeah, they never said that.
She figures out how to manipulate the box. She solves it. She hears the bells. She sees the lights flashing. She's transported to the Cenobite dimension. And this time, there's only like one Cenobite that shows up to greet her. And this Cenobite's kind of like, oh, first time? Let me guess. You didn't mean to solve that box. You didn't know what that box did. And Kirsty's like, no. And the Cenobite's like, well, doesn't really matter. I mean, you solve the box, I get your soul. So, get in the car. And Kirsty's like...
Get in the car.
And Kirsty's like, well, now, hold on just a minute. Don't you want to know how I got the box? And the Cenobite looks at her and is like, not really. No, I don't care. And so she's like, well, but what about Frank? Do you know Frank? And she's like, oh, we know
Herbert?
Frank.
Yeah. Oh.
You thought the Cenobites would be excited to get Frank Herbert?
Yeah,
no one's excited to talk to Frank Herbert. The Dune guy? Oh, man. I've been waiting to cut his nipples off.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
She's like, no, we know Frank. And it's weird because nobody ever says Frank's last name. She just knows, like, yeah, no, there's only one Frank.
Yeah, there's only one Frank who's ever solved that puzzle.
Yeah, no one else named Frank has ever solved the puzzle. So she's like, yeah, we know Frank. She's like, well, I could take you to him. And the Cenobite's like, Frank's alive? And Kirsty's like, yes?
Yeah.
Maybe? Kind of? He's there. He's definitely there. And so the Cenobite's like, okay, maybe we can do that. You get Frank, you take me to Frank, and you make him confess, and I will take Frank instead of you. And Kirsty's like, deal. And she gets out of the hospital, and she starts walking on over. Meanwhile, back...
Yeah, I was like, I feel like something happened.
Yeah, meanwhile, back at Chez Rory, Frank And Julia is just freaking the fuck out. She's like, Kirsty got away. What are we going to do now? She's going to tell people I was killing everybody. She's going to tell people you're a meat creature. And Frank's just like, yeah, well, that sucks for you. I mean, I'll just slip away into the middle of the night with my meat creature legs. Because Frank's really strong and stuff. We mentioned that. But like he actually rips a man's jaw off with his bare hands. So like,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I could do that. I've never tried.
He's a pretty meaty guy.
Yeah, but like,
okay?
I think he does.
You're no Frank.
No, I'm no Frank.
You could never hope to be a Frank. Have you seen that guy?
He's a tank.
Yeah. Fucking jacked.
Pulled rank. He's a Frank the Tank. He's like, that's okay. She'll be back. They always come back for Frank. Oh, and he also...
It's the Zap Brannigan. Once you've got a taste of this, you'll come crawling back.
Oh, and there's...
the delicious candy.
Sometimes I feel like you've based far too much of your, like, seduction on Zap Brannigan, the William Shatner parody from Futurama.
Duh, Ben. Have you seen that guy? He's fucking doughy.
I was going to say, I've seen his girdle, which is, again, a William Shatner joke. So he's like, they always come back for Frank.
Did Shatner wear a fucking girdle?
What? Yeah, no, William Shatner in like, the original Star Trek was only like 3 seasons, and he managed to get that fat in like 3 years.
He did a lot of sitting, Ben.
Oh, also, this is important, and this is weird. When Frank was trying to seduce Kirsty, he said, "Come to Daddy."
Yeah, that's weird under most circumstances.
The daddy thing has always been weird to me. I don't get it. I've never understood it. It's creepy. I've never understood any guy who likes it when any girl who is not his daughter calls him daddy.
Yeah.
I'm also just generally uncomfortable. I know I made the Garmbell daddy joke, but that's different.
That is different.
But Frank tells Julia, you know the one thing I need to really like sell this I'm alive shtick to people in the outside world? Skin. I gotta get some skin.
So obviously Julia's gonna like knit him a nice sweater or something, right? And it's gonna be like hilarious because it doesn't look anything like skin. So Julia's like, wait a minute, I think I have a spare Frank skin set around here,
I know something I have something that is just in your size. And Kirsty shows up in the middle of the night. Not sure why she chose that particular.
Well, she had to go get the Cenobite off her back.
Yeah, she shows up in the middle of the night, alone and unarmed. Take on 2 murders.
Seemed like a solid plan at the time. She was like, maybe the Cenobite will just take care of him.
She really did think that. She really thought she's going to open the door, be like, sick him, and the Cenobite's just going to take him out. If we were playing D&D, this feels like what one of my characters would do. Like anytime, even if I told them, like, this is a demon. It comes from the abyssal realm. It is chaotic evil. It is incapable of good. It exists to consume everything. As long as it was nice to them once, friends for life. That's all my players. They're incapable of processing that anything could deceive them.
Meanwhile, I deceived my players so many times in my first campaign that they trusted nobody.
This
Even the people who were just genuinely trying to help, they're like, this guy's a spy, or he's trying to poison me, or I'm getting betrayed.
This is totally unrelated, but in the D&D campaign I'm playing, I have started, my character is now, I own a successful bar, and now I have started a bar rescue performance show.
God damn it.
Where I go to other bars in Waterdeep, and I get them a cocktail program and a food thing, and I yell at them on the first day, but then I train them, and then like if there's any arguments in there, I solve those. I make them better people. I tell them that, this bar is really about
so
family.
you're just role playing
John Taffer.
You're just role playing something different. Yeah, you're playing something entirely different.
Fixing bars is easy. Fixing people is tough.
I'm playing D&D. I still fight people sometimes. I was asked, we were between, we did the, what's the Waterdeep something heist? We did that.
Yeah.
And then there's like a couple month gap between that and the next book. And they were like, what were you doing during those months between adventures? And I told them, I was like, I took my money that we got at the end of the first adventure and I invested in this show. And I went to all the guilds in Waterdeep and I got them to contribute parts and labor to the remodels. So it's basically a glorified commercial for, restaurant industry suppliers, but I can also charge people to watch it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have like 15,000 gold.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not kidding.
You have way too much money.
So your brother doesn't respect your money, or he's an idiot.
Anyway, where are we at? Oh yeah, she comes in and Rory's there and Julia's there and they're like...
Yeah, Rory's looking really beat up. And he's got like a lot of blood around the seams.
And like when he talks, his mouth is maybe like flapping around.
He actually has like his neck is like kind of crinkly. Like it's a little loose and he's a little loose in the neck.
Julia told me all about what happened and I killed Frank. He's dead now.
She told you everything that happened?
Yeah. Yeah, no. She told me that Frank was some kind of monster or something, and yada, yada, yada. There was a lot of yada, yada, yada-ing. The point is, Frank thought that he could trust me, because we're brothers, we're super close, and we love each other, and we're just super special awesome, and I was like, no, Frank! And I lifted him up like Bane, and I slammed, I guess Bane didn't exist at this point, but, use your imagination. I slammed him down over my knee. I cracked his entire body in half. He's dead now. He's upstairs. He's dead. You can go take a look if you want, but it's definitely him.
Yeah, I need to see that body. I kind of got a lot riding on this. Okay. Oh, fuck. That's a body.
No. It's definitely a body.
Yeah,
it's definitely a body. Yes, it looks like it definitely belonged to Frank, perhaps.
I'm gonna be real with you. It would be great right now if you could say something that would signal to me that you weren't you, that there's absolutely no reason for you to say, and is totally out of place and would definitely give you away.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do that. That would be really, really stupid.
If you were going to do that, what would you say?
Come to daddy.
So that's when Kirsty realizes it's Frank, and the Cenobite isn't getting him. What the hell? Get him!
But it's also not getting Julia, or not Julia. It's also not getting Kirsty, because he was about to take Kirsty, and Kirsty's like, she reached her hand out and she just tears a part of his face skin off.
And she's like, who are you? And Frank's like, are you serious? No one forgets Frank, baby. I'm Frank. Frank the Tank. Social security number.
But before he does that, he accidentally stabs Julia in a scuffle, and then he's like, come to daddy, and he eats her.
Sucks her soul out her butt.
So yeah, he sucks her soul out of her butt, and then he's like, I'm Frank. Frank is my name. Frank, last name unspecified. Social security number.
What are all these hooks in my flesh, and why are they connected to chains? Oh my god. I am being pulled into hell. And as they do that, the Cenobites are all there now. All of them. And they're pulling Frank apart. And Frank, honest to God, he has like some last words, and I think it's like yabba dabba doo or something. I have no idea what he said. And then they just quarter him.
Yabba dabba doo. Famous last words of Frank the Tank.
And then they quarter him, and then he's done.
Yeah, but before he dies, he quits screaming long enough to make uncomfortable eye contact with Kirsty.
Yeah, and then he says, "Yabba dabba do," and they pull him apart.
Yabba dabba do.
And then she runs down the stairs, and like the whole house is like sucked into the hell dimension, and it's all crazy and wonky. And now this is an interesting piece. She sees Julia, who is sitting. She was wearing her bridal dress because I suppose she wanted a repeat of the last time she was with Frank. Julia says something, and she looks under the hood, and under the veil, the hood. It's the bridal hoodie.
Yeah, the bridal hoodie, as you do.
There's nothing there. Julia's head is in her lap, and it's speaking to her. And it's like, Kirsty, where am I? What's going on? I'm just a little guy, Kirsty.
And Kirsty flips her the 2 birds and tells her to go fuck herself, and then she gets sucked into heaven. I guess she doesn't have a butt anymore, so whatever's left.
Well, no, what she sees is under the veil, a voice speaks to her. And when she looks under the veil, it's like a cone of light. And Kirsty is finally just like, I'm done. No. And she runs. She bolts out of there. And the whole world is kind of like gooey. It's kind of like not really there. It's kind of like, eh. And so she bumps into a guy. And when the guy turns around, his head's a cone of light. And she looks, and the man she bumped into put something in her hand. And it was the puzzle box. It was the engineer. The engineer is just a cone of light. Now, I will tell you, this is the end of the book. This is where Kirsty muses her final poetic words about broken hearts, and maybe she'll find a puzzle that takes her to where Rory is, but you know what? Not going to look too hard.
I like how she was like, maybe in a crossword puzzle. And I'm like, yeah, he would be trapped in a crossword puzzle, wouldn't he?
Now you're on team Rory sucks. You got there. Kirsty's cool now because she went through weird shit.
He's mid, Ben. He's not even...
Mid,
the people who really suck are Frank and Julia. Roy's mid. He's just like, I mean, you're there, I guess.
That's the end of the book. So, what did we learn about the Cenobites? Practically nothing. We don't really know what they do. We know that they view pain as pleasure. We know they exist on another dimension. We know there is an engineer who the engineer seems to be their leader, but we don't know what he is. He doesn't look like a Cenobite. He seems to possess random human forms around him, and the Cenobites are like beneath him somehow. It's all kind of interesting to me. I was intrigued by the idea of the Cenobites, but when you come to this from the movie, it's a little disappointing because in the movie the Cenobites are actually, and pun here, much more fleshed out. Every scene, the movie follows the book very closely, with the exception of Kirsty being the daughter. Other than that, almost all the scenes are unchanged. And the Cenobites, all of their scenes are expanded. Like there's just more dialogue put into each scene. They reveal a little bit more about themselves. The engineer is different. That is a change. The engineer is very different. Overall, I felt like the movie was much more about the supernatural elements, for lack of a better word. The movie is much more about like Frank reanimating this extra dimensional beings. There's a little more complexity given to the Cenobites, where they're kind of like journeying to the extremes of experience, and that there might actually be pain and pleasure. But in the book, or there might actually be pleasure and pain, and in the book they're just kind of like torturing people.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
Yeah, the book seems to be very much more focused on the unrequited love. So Kirsty loves Rory, Kirsty wants Rory, who wants Julia, who wants Frank, who is willing to abandon
but like
Julia at the drop of a hat for Kirsty. Frank doesn't want anyone but Frank. But he's ready to
He's at the
discard
pinnacle,
Julia.
baby.
Yeah. He's a real Chad. So yeah, I was honestly surprised because typically you think when you watch a movie and then you read what it was based on, books tend to be really lore heavy, world buildy things. And then when they're adapted into film or television, they're kind of pared down to focus on the human story, which is more relatable to a general audience, more marketable. And in this case, it's the reverse. The book, I think, is much more approachable to a general audience. It tells a simple story about 4 people who each have an unrequited love. And they, at the end, it's not a happy ending. All of the love falls apart. And that is the Hellbound Heart. All of their love is doomed. And that's the horror story.
How unfortunate.
And it's kind of I won't say sappy, but like, it's a very simple story about human relationships with a supernatural horror element for flavor. Whereas the movie very obviously wanted to expand on the lore of the Cenobites and what they are and what their deal is. And it was strange to me to read that Clive Barker had a film adaptation in mind when he wrote this, because he really didn't have, you could tell he had an idea for the Cenobites. Nothing contradicts them in the movie, but there's just really nothing to contradict.
Yeah. You can't make a mistake if you just never shoot your shot, Ben.
So
whatever.
What if I told you? So this
guy. You
this
can't
came
steal
out.
my car if I just light it on fire first, idiot.
This came out in 1986, and the next literary entry that Clive Barker would write into the
2010
Cenobite canon, 2015.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he wrote the Scarlet Gospels. That's the everything else in Hellraiser canon. Everything else that has happened with Hellraiser between the Hellbound Heart and the Scarlet Gospels is either Clive Barker in collaboration with other people to, make the films or to approve other writers. There's been a few other writers who have done like short stories and stuff. But yeah, basically so much of this is just kind of like that simple image of the puzzle, the extra dimensional torture creatures, and pain and pleasure. He really just takes those 3 simple elements, and everything else came out of that.
And then Rick and Morty parodied it, and it was really bad.
I do not know which one you're talking about.
That's fine, Ben. You don't need to.
So I'm interested to know your impression. Because I know you're not a big horror guy.
Yeah, I actually like this one.
Did you?
Yeah. I actually thought it was pretty good. It really is like an adult Goosebumps book.
Yeah.
It wasn't too gory. At least it doesn't have a bullshit ending. The main character did come out like better for it, but she manages to live.
She's not punished for anything she didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone gets to live, so. And you had a real shitty villain that you hate and you want to see get taken down, and he does. No, I liked it a lot.
Like, honestly, the main focus of the book is on Julia's sexual frustration. I mean, that's really like, it's a theme.
Cry me a river, Julia.
Well, I mean, it's a theme that I giggle at because I'm very immature, but it is a theme. It is a human experience. It is something that people go through. And she makes the wrong choices. She is a villain. She is, punished for those transgressions. But in a way, she's complicated. I think she wants to. She's like the proto Frank. I think he's talking about
Frank.
Well,
yeah, I could see that.
I don't know what lesson, if any, Clive Barker would have you take from Hellraiser.
Don't solve weird puzzle boxes and don't bite off more than you can chew, you fucking idiot. Oh, I haven't tried any pleasure, or I have all the pleasures. Nothing can catch my eye. All right, how about you? New experience, right? Start a business that lasts longer than a month, you fucking parasite.
Oh my god.
Buy an island, Frank. Get a big pile of money and then snort all of it.
To me, if there was a lesson, it would be, I guess, balance in all things. If Julia is dissatisfied with her marriage and her sex life because Rory is very
Plain
simple,
white bread.
but also he's not interested in spicing it up, and he doesn't talk to her about it. And Julia is also kind of boring, but like Julia takes risks in the book to try to get what she wants, and
butt stuff.
She has a limit of how far she'll go. I think Frank and Julia, their frustration, they take it into an unhealthy level of like kink and violence and weird, whereas Rory and Kirsty are just kind of so, I don't want to say repressed, but like so risk adverse that they're not even connecting with anyone. Rory can't connect to Julia, and Kirsty can't connect to Rory because she's afraid of rocking the boat. I think it's meant to be a tragedy, but I think also if there were a lesson, it would be all things in moderation. Don't be a Frank, don't be a Rory. Both of those brothers suck. And the fact that they're brothers in opposite ends of the coin is probably a little, symbolic. Might be getting a little heady for the Hellbound Heart, but I think there was a reason it stuck around. Not a bad first introduction to that kind of horror. That, I guess, it's not really that gory, but I think for the time...
No, it's not. That was a solid read. And it was a nice quick read. I started and finished it yesterday.
Do you want to rubric it?
If more books could get their shit in and get out. Let's do a rubric.
You can find the rubric at blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. Content and ideas.
I'm torn between a 5 and a 4.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I think I might go with a 4 just because. I mean, it had that lasting impact, but I don't know anything about the Cenobites. You're right about that. And maybe I don't have to know anything about them, but I kind of wanted maybe Frank to think about that a little more, other than their idea of pleasure is nothing like my own.
There's definitely a healthy medium between giving too much and giving nothing. And I would say the movie is probably right there, and the comics are probably firmly on the side of too much.
Yeah. It sounds like it. The World War I, and yeah, it's weird.
I kind of went 3 because I think I wanted to go 4. I was tempted. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought the reason I want to go 4 is because of the movie. Because I want to know more about the Cenobites, and I don't know if I would care. Like, if I had just read this story in a horror magazine or in a horror anthology or something, would I be as taken with the Cenobites? And I don't think I would. but the movie gives them just that little bit, just a little bit more dialogue, just a little bit more personality. And I think that's what it needs. And so I said, like, there's a clear idea. He definitely has it, but it's a little bit of a sketch to me. So I went with a 3. So it's a little underdeveloped. Could have easily been a novel. Not sure why he settled on a novella.
Because we had shit to do.
If you're going to err on too much or too little, err on too little when it comes to books. Less is more. So, organization.
You go, Ben.
I would say, again, a 3. And I'm going with a 3 because I think it may be just a smidge too fast. There's really not a lot of time for the impact of the horror to breathe. And it's just very quick to like bang, 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 get to the next thing, get to the next thing. Julia kills, gets away with it, kills, gets away with it, kills, gets away with it. And Kirsty, one chase scene, I'm out. Back the next night. Like, it's...
I guess I could see that. I mean, if it's trying to go for adult Goosebumps, which I guess really Goosebumps would be doing child version of this, right? Because I think this came first. I feel like the pacing would be appropriate, but yeah, you're right. Probably this might be an example of fast pacing, which we don't normally see. I would overall prefer faster pacing than slower pacing because
I agree. I don't want to dock it too much.
I'd like to finish my book in a few hours instead of for example, let's say you just keep talking about the original series of Dune as if no one has ever read your Dune book. So you just have to keep describing all the various things from Dune, that most of which get discarded in the Dune book. But you're like, they were doing a prequel. This is just all hypothetical, though. I would much prefer that shit just be like streamlined and fast. But you convinced me. I think I'd go with a 3. Just because
a 3.5, like a 13 points for this. I don't know, but it's a little bit better than a 3, but not quite a 4.
All right, use of language.
This I went with a 4.
I also went with a 4.
He had a nice turn of phrase. There's a lot of weird little like punctuation things where I can't think of any offhand, but like he's very tongue-in-cheek about a few things, and Kirsty was genuinely funny. Like, I did not expect to like Kirsty. That is one thing I will say. Like, making her a daughter in the movie, it kind of makes the Frank and Julia stuff mesh together a little better because Kirsty has more of a reason to be there and involved. But
other than just being the only other woman that Rory knows.
Yeah. And there's tension because like she's got to visit the house, and you still have I also kind of don't buy why Kirsty's like devastated by the loss of Rory. I mean, that sucks. He was your friend. I get it, but like if it was a father.
Problem is, Ben, you never saw it, and it wasn't really described in the book. But Rory's got some fucking defined calves.
Okay. And I really love those high socks he wears that come like halfway up the shin.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Because he's got to cover them because like otherwise, he doesn't just take those socks down for anyone or for free. You know what I'm saying?
Off-brand dad sneakers.
I was gonna say he's got some sandals. He's wearing socks with sandals.
Ay, Dios mío. But no, I Clive Barker, I was surprised. I did not really know what to think of Clive Barker's writing because I've only been exposed to it indirectly through movies and that one fucking video game.
Clive Barker's Jericho by Clive Barker.
But he's a pretty good writer. actually, and I don't know if this is a controversial statement, better than Stephen King. I mean, this was a lot better to read than like a Stephen King book. Stephen King is like, he's got some good stories, but he's not like a writer. Like he's not,
one of these years we have to do Stephen King.
We'll do Stephen King. I keep offering to do it, and people keep not this year.
You've been thinking about it for years now. I think since you're like, we're gonna do Lovecraft, but then we'll do Stephen King at some point, and we haven't.
We can do Stephen King. We can read a Stephen King book whenever you want. We can read The Stand. It's a medical Bible thriller. There's a flu that kills everybody, and then the Antichrist comes back, or the Antichrist is born.
Okay.
Here's the thing with Stephen King: it's always magic. There's always this like, is it magic or is it practical in horror? Stephen King, it's always magic. Okay, but that was language. Language is good. Like the language. Personal preference.
I think I don't know if I could really give it a 5. I can't say I absolutely loved it, but I liked it. I think I'd go with a 4.
I went with a 4. I actually, and again, there weren't really elements that didn't quite work for me. That's our description, is liked the book, but there were elements that didn't quite work for you. I just wanted more. Yeah. And this is a weird one where it's like you said, we don't get a lot of fast paced in like quick books. So this is the downside of going faster pace is, I really could have used a little bit more about the Cenobites, but I do think Clive Barker knew that because again, he fixes it in Hellraiser. But I do think
it goes the other way with the comics.
He has nothing to do with the comics.
Okay.
He was in for the first 2 movies, got totally burned by Hollywood, and just got the fuck out. And I respect him for that. He is not precious about his stuff. Recommendation strength. This is an interesting one.
I would, it's hard to say a recommendation to general audiences, but I'd say strong recommendation to genre fans. So like a 4-.
I'm actually going to go with, in the true spirit of a 4, strong recommendation to genre fans, weak recommendation to general audiences. If anything we said sounds like your thing, I don't think there's anything in this that would prevent a general audience from enjoying it. I don't think it's too weird. It's not too violent.
I guess that's fair. It's not gory or any... Yeah, I could see myself to a full-on 4.
Like, some people are just never going to want to read horror, and I respect that. But if you were interested...
No, you don't. You keep making me read it.
You're different. You signed... Most people would respect that I don't want to read video game books or Captain fucking Underpants. But here we are.
Have you read that yet, Ben?
No, I haven't fucking read that
yet. Yeah. You know what's next after Goosebumps? You gotta read that Halo book, Ben.
I know. Halo Cryptum.
Yeah.
Cryptum, I damn near killed him.
Halo books.
Yeah. Written by Greg Bear, right? I remember this. Actual sci-fi author, Greg Bear. Needing a paycheck. Retirement didn't go so well for Greg Bear. Didn't plan well for the future. Greg Bear, Halo Cryptum.
Poor Greg Bear, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. He had to write that Halo book.
He had to write a trilogy, Ben.
Oh, well. If you write a book in after 2000, you got to write 3. That's the rule. Nobody wants one book anymore. But yeah, so that will bring us to the end of the Hellbound Heart. We're going to do the rare Words About Books movie, where we will watch Hellraiser. And maybe we'll do another like riff tracks one. I don't know. Some people watched the Dune one. So
some people. There is at least one. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do a riff track. We'll throw that on YouTube if you're interested in our like in the moment reactions to Hellraiser. But then we'll do a proper episode. So look forward to that. Then we're going to do a creepypasta. That's also on the docket for Halloween. And A mystery episode. A mystery episode.
Still don't know what it is, do you?
It's a mystery even to me. I've got a million things I could do. I could just pull something out of my spirit butt.
Your soul ass, your spirit box.
So yeah, okay. So with that, we're gonna end the episode. But before we do, I have to thank the patrons who subscribe to the podcast at patreon.com/WABpod. There are 3 tiers, and the highest tier gets a shout out and a plug for their personal projects if their personal projects aren't too weird. And the people contributing at that frankly ludicrous tier are, in no particular order, Isekai Sensei Sama of the That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster podcast. Is Hellraiser an isekai? Is Frank technically an isekai protagonist when he comes out of the hell dimension? Think about that. Got the Gravy Man, Jamie. If you want the Gravy movie blog, check it out. Jamie Walker, no project given. Jamie Walker doesn't need to show off. We got John Bierce, actual author of The Mage Errant, The Rack, and a new upcoming project. John has a Patreon you can check out where you can read his short stories and vote on the next short story. We have Shy with a Y on TikTok. And I think it's everyone. What's the last line of Hellraiser? Read that for me. I think that's what we'll end on.
She would wait and watch as she always had watched and waited, hoping that such a puzzle would one day come to her. But if it failed to show itself, she would not grieve too deeply, for fear that the mending of broken hearts be a puzzle neither wit nor time had the skill to solve.
I'm opening the freezer.
What?
Oh my god.
Opening my frosty.
Oh my god, it's so loud.
Our freezer, we need to get some WD-40.
Yeah, I could tell. I could hear it all the way over here, and I don't think that was through my headphones. I think that was just, it carried on the wind.